We're back, everybody. So listen, you probably will not be surprised by this, but motherhood can be hard. It is certainly transformative, and it shifts everything, your body, your identity, even your entire sense of self.
Yeah, well, our next guest truly gets that and is here to talk about how women can honor that transition and navigate the emotional journey into motherhood. Please welcome to the show the author of Mothershift, Reclaiming Motherhood as a Rite of Passage, Jessie Harrold. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
So Jessie, here's a word that you talk about in your book, in fact, what it's all about. And it's a word, frankly, I had not heard about before. And the word is matrescence.
You got it.
Matrescence. I had not heard of it until this book. What is that? Define it for us.
Yeah, matrescence is the word that we use to describe the transition into motherhood. So it's this radical transformation that's biological, it's psychological, social, it's economic, it's spiritual in its scope. That term matrescence was defined and kind of coined by a social anthropologist named Dr. Dana Raphael back in 1975. And it sounds like adolescence, and it's really similar, right? It's one of these changes that changes everything. It can be a little awkward, a little challenging, takes a long time, and in fact, the transition into motherhood, this time of matrescence, takes 2 to 3 years.
What are we talking about? Before baby or after baby, or what is it?
Well, it's a good question. I think it often kind of starts, if the mother is, carrying her baby and is pregnant with her baby, then yeah, it certainly starts during that pregnancy. But yeah, continues 2 to 3 years afterwards as well.
Wow.
All right, so talk to us about your journey with matrescence. Like, how did you become interested in it?
Yeah, so I became a doula supporting mothers through birth 17 years ago. And I wasn't a mother yet at the time. And as I started to kind of ask this maybe baby question in my own life, I happened to attend a talk by another local doula. And in that talk, she said the transition to motherhood takes 2 to 3 years. And that was the first time I had ever heard that before. We weren't really talking about matrescence back then. And, I could have been really quite alarmed by this. But, I also felt like it was a huge permission slip to feel complex feelings about it, to take my time, to screw it up sometimes, and that we'd all be okay. So I did get pregnant, and that person who was giving the talk,
Munchkin.
she became my doula, and I think it really made a huge difference to be supported by somebody who really understood the enormity of what I was going through.
So why do you think it is so important to recognize and know about this transition, especially for new moms or maybe people thinking of becoming moms?
I think it's really profoundly normalizing. I think it's validating. And there's some really interesting preliminary research that shows that when we know about matrescence, we have an awareness of it, and we can see it as a time that is, yes, challenging, but that is also filled with the potential for personal growth and development. When we can see matrescence that way, it's actually been shown to reduce the risk of postpartum mood disorders for the entire first postpartum year. So we've got 1 in 4 mothers experiencing postpartum mood disorders, and so I think this is really important to know about.
Wow. All right. So Jessie, in your book, you write that losing yourself in motherhood is not the problem, but the point. So can you talk more about that?
Totally. We have this bounce back culture, right? We say that actually the worst thing that you could do is lose yourself in motherhood. But the truth is that anytime we go through a radical transformation in our lives, even if it's something that's otherwise joyful and wanted, we have to let go of the former self that we once were in order to be able to really fully step into that new identity. And that can be really challenging. But, if we think about that idea of adolescence being similar to matrescence, we think of adolescence as this awkward time, takes a while, but on the other side of it, you become more sure of yourself. You maybe know how you want to contribute to the world. You become more yourself. Well, that's what happens in matrescence too. But you do have to lose yourself in the process before you can learn who you're becoming.
I swear I wish I had this before I had my daughter.
No one mentioned it at all?
You were just expected to do it, have a baby, bounce back, and let's go like nothing happened. And I'll be honest, I really feel ripped off. That's a whole other segment, okay? So let's talk about these 2 to 3 years of matrescence. matrescence.
Yeah.
What is actually happening? What are some of the changes that are occurring over this time for some women?
Yeah, so in the book Mothershift and in the programs that I teach for mothers and perinatal professionals, I share this model that I've created that kind of helps to sort of understand what happens in the process and what mothers can expect along the way. And so the first thing that we need to do, because everything is changing, right? You might feel different about your body, your career, your partnership. So many things are different. So the first really simple but powerful step is to name and acknowledge what is different for you. So it doesn't feel so overwhelming. It has some sort of containment and some sort of name to it. And then you really have to feel the feelings you're feeling about that, right? So it's normal, in fact, to feel feelings of grief and even loss as you're kind of asked to maybe put a pause on or even surrender some of the things that really matter to you in this process.
Wow.
And then there's this kind of time of in between. It's called the liminal space, where you're not a mother. You maybe have a baby in your house, but you haven't fully stepped into that identity and that sort of integrated sense of your own motherhood. And it can be really tricky because our culture loves it when we have a sense of self and identity and goals, and the liminal space is anything but that, right?
Oh, wow.
And then finally you move into this period of exploring who you're becoming as a mother and as a person who happens to be a mother. It's the fun part. It's the part everybody wants to skip to. And often we become more authentic versions of ourselves in this process.
That's
Speaking deep
That's great stuff. All right.
Deep.
Yeah, in your book, you also talk about mother powers. Tell us about what is mother power?
Okay, so the mother powers are these skills and capacities that we have the potential to cultivate through the process of matrescence. So they're things like enhanced creativity, deeper intuition, the desire to build community. And these are all things that really help us through our own experiences of matrescence, but also they're things that the world really needs more of right now. And so I think of these mother powers as being this way in which mothers are really kind of activists and change makers in our culture as well.
Yeah, I think for me personally, after having a child, I see my child in every other child's face.
Yes.
And that is the empathy that the world needs.
You got it.
I think so.
You got
Okay,
it.
let's talk about the experience of it culturally. Is matrescence the same if you're having a baby in Canada, United States, Scandinavia, Asia, wherever?
Great question. Well, I think, there's a certain extent to which this is a rite of passage that we've been going through since the literal dawn of humanity. And so there's some universality to it. And also, I think the biggest kind of factors are the social policies of the country where you live or the place where you live, and some of the cultural customs. So for example, in Canada, if you're lucky enough to have a year-long maternity leave, that really shapes how you're able to kind of go through this process and the time you have to be able to sort yourself out, And then the kind of cultural piece is that, many cultures really revere the postpartum time and protect and honor that postpartum time more so than some of our, Western culture. And so I think, again, when you're kind of off to a really good start and being cared for in that postpartum time, it really shapes your matrescence.
Oh,
Fascinating
Jesse,
discussion.
Great conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for enlightening us and bringing this very important conversation about motherhood
you.
to our shows. Honor to have you here. All right, stay right where you are. We'll be right back. This is the book. Go get it.
Hey, you, come a bit closer. We've got so many more must-see interviews, spicy debates, lifestyle tips, and pop culture moments. So subscribe to our channel by tapping the logo below and don't miss out.